Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, we got a very, very serious topic we're going to talk about today. And I want everybody to be aware that this is National Minority Donors Awareness Month, and we got two absolutely fantastic guests that's going to talk with us and share what this means and talk to us about topics that most people don't even talk about because first of all, I don't think they are fully aware of how much in need organ donors are, and also the education on why we need more minorities to, I mean, donate their organs or their little ones' organs if that's the case. So, uh, always before I do anything, I have to bring Michelle in because she really does all of the heavy lifting. How you doing today, Michelle?
Hey, I'm doing good today, James. You're right. This is a very important topic. And I think a lot of people may not understand, the process and, certain myths about being an organ donor. And we have two amazing guests today who are going to talk about not only the organizations, not only about National Minority Donor Awareness Month, but about the processes and just things that Black and brown communities we need to know about being a potential donor. And people think that being a donor means you have to be deceased or you cannot recover. That is not true at all. You can be a living donor. So we're going to have these two guests today who are going to discuss this topic and everything that encompasses it.
Wow, I can't wait to get started. And wherever you're watching this at, whether it's on E360 TV or if you're watching on any other over 20 live streaming networks, you can be part of the conversation if you allow Facebook, where actually StreamYard, to utilize your Facebook headshot. You can ask any questions that you want to. So I tell you what, Michelle, let's get this started. Can you please tell them what the title of the show is, the purpose, and introduce both of these two great guests?
Yes, the title of the show today is National Minority Donor Awareness Month. What communities of color should know about donation? And the purpose of the show today is getting to know the Vice President, Governmental Affairs and External Relations for Gift of Hope Organ and Tissue Donor Network, and the immediate past president for the Association for Multicultural Affairs and Transplantation, Marion Shug. Also, go getting to know the director of the Multicultural Donation Education Program, Lifelink of Georgia, Bobby Howard. We're going to talk about what is Minority Donor Awareness Month and the need for communities of color to donate, and also dispelling the myths and misconceptions about organ donation, and learn about the statistics of minority donation. I'm going to introduce our first guest, Marion Shuck. Marion serves as the VP Government Affairs and External Relations for Gift of Hope Organ and Tissue Donor Network, and is the immediate past president for the Association for Multicultural Affairs in Transplantation. As a donor family herself with her late husband, Reggie, Marion will share a continued commitment to sharing thousands of stories and expertise gained when creating and deepening relationships between donor families, volunteers, and community partners to support organ and tissue donation. Marion holds a master's in philosophy from Walden University in Minnesota and a master's in human resource management from St. Mary's University in Minnesota and a bachelor's in business and leadership from Kendall College in Chicago, and will finish her PhD in organizational leadership and change from Walden University by the fall of 2022. Bobby Howard. After suffering severe kidney disease and receiving a kidney transplant, Mr. Howard has dedicated his life to helping others who face life-threatening health challenges. As director of Lifelink of Georgia's Multicultural Donation Education Program, he continues to lead collaborative efforts with local, national coalitions and community partners to spread the important message of organ donation. He serves on the boards of Donate Life America, NFLPA, former player board of directors, and Metro Atlanta Concerned Black Clergy. He is president of the Atlanta chapter, NFL Former Players Association, and chair of the National Multicultural Action Group. Bobby has faithfully served in the following capacities: President of the Association for Multicultural Affairs in Transplantation, President of the Georgia Transplant Foundation, a board member of the United Network of Organ Sharing, and board member of the 100 Black Men of DeKalb County. The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, live on E316, over 20 live stream platforms, welcomes Marion Shuck and Bobby Howard to the show.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. I miss you guys.
Thank you for having us back.
Oh, come on now. I had to. And we have fun when we're doing these shows. And plus, we need to educate our listeners on how important that this is. So let's start with you first, Marion. Can you tell I know Michelle just did a great intro, but can you tell our listeners and our viewers where you grew up and who instilled the great character in you that led you to be the person that you are today?
Yeah, I grew up in Chicago, native Chicagoan, currently reside in the Hyde Park neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. But my parents, and particularly my big mama, Mama Lula, are really critical for everything that I am and everything that I do. Particularly my big mama, she went into a nursing home, and at 11, I didn't understand why she had to go into a nursing home and why we had to see her like that. So healthcare has always been something that I grew up saying that anybody that I loved would never go into a nursing home. But more importantly, just wanting to be in a field where you could give back and you could help people. So that's been very important to me. And I landed up at Gift of Hope after a career in corporate America, landed up at Gift of Hope and have been doing this now for 13 years. So really educating communities that look like everybody on the phone.
Wow. What about you, Bob?
Well, thank you again for having us. It's been a while, and you're really dedicated to this mission because you've had us on the past 3 years. So we truly appreciate that. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I am the youngest of 11 children. And, life for me growing up was pretty tough. I lost both my parents at an early age, my dad at the age of 10, my mom at the age of 13. So I got a lot of my influences from the streets. And when I mean from the streets, a lot of guys who were in the community who saw the potential that I had as an athlete really took care of me. They wanted to shape me and mold me and would not allow me to do any of the negative things that were going on in the community. So I owe a lot of who I am today back to those guys who were the leaders of the community. And not all of them were leaders in a good way, but they were really dedicated to me and really taught me a whole lot about service and giving back. And for me, after playing in the NFL for a few years and, I got sick, needed a transplant, and here I am today, almost 28 years later, doing the job of helping and serving the community that I love, and that's the community of color, that's Black and brown people.
Well, we're definitely happy that you recovered from that bout with your health challenges, and we will discuss that a little bit more. I want to go back to Marion. So, Marion, you are your role at Gift of Hope. Can you share with our audience the backstory of why and how you got involved with this organization?
Yeah, it was in right around 2008, beginning of 2009, during the economic downturn. And I was working for an organization and we were just laying off people week after week after week. And I really wanted to do something that was more meaningful and where I didn't just have to lay off people just based on economics. It was really hard at that time for people to lose their jobs and just sort of out of nowhere and didn't know it was happening. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should look at this organization. It is, healthcare related. It's nonprofit. It has a wonderful mission." And so I applied. I hit it off with everyone, and I started off in recruitment, managing the recruitment process for the organization, and did that for about 4.5, 5 years. And then there was an opening with Jack Lynch, who is synonymous with organ and tissue donation for the past 35 years, to be his community outreach manager. And I've been doing that ever since. And I was the manager, then I became the director, and about almost 2 years ago became the vice president for governmental and external affairs.
Well, Marion, can you tell our audience what exactly is Gift of Hope? What type of organization is it, and the services and the resources it provides?
Yes, Gift of Hope Organ and Tissue Donor Network is one of 57 organ procurement organizations in the United States. And an organ procurement organization is a federally mandated organization that coordinates the organ and tissue donation process, meaning we coordinate the deceased donation process. When people experience a tragic circumstance, a traumatic brain injury, a cardiac episode, or any type of a noxious injury that lands them in the hospital where their life is no longer sustainable. And then our organizations are the ones who coordinate that process. We talk to the families in two instances. One, if they're registered, we help their loved ones understand the process of donation and how we're going to honor their loved ones' wishes. And then two, if their loved ones are not registered, we have to give them enough information to ask them to make a decision on the worst day of their lives to help save someone else's life. And that is the process we coordinate.
Wow. Bobby, so you're the director of Lifelink of Georgia's Multicultural Donation Education Program. Let's go backwards. How did you get involved with this organization? And is there a story about how and why you got involved in this organization?
Well, I got involved, and my story is all in one. After I received my transplant, and my transplant surgeon and my nephrologist, of course, you go through the process of if you're ready to go back to work and all those kind of things. And it was time for me to go back to work. But I quickly remembered I came here to visit. I didn't come to live in Georgia. I came to visit a brother of mine. So I didn't have a job. And I was making a remark to my transplant surgeon. I said, okay, I have to go back to Florida, which really was my home. And I have to go to work. I don't have any money. Maybe about 3 days later, I get a phone call from Lifelink, from the HR department, asked me to apply. And the only thing I had on my resume was football and some little odd things I was doing private investigating in Florida. I applied and I was hired 3 days after. And I quickly found out that my transplant surgeon was the medical director and one of the founders of Lifelink in bringing it to Georgia. And my nephrologist, he was on the board of directors. So the new program was just starting and they thought I would make a good fit for it. And I've been there ever since. And it's truly been a journey of working in the Black community and seeing the growth in the knowledge and the participation of the Black community, where years ago it was stated that Blacks would not donate or very reluctant to donate. And Mary and I both can tell you and attest to you that we truly believe with education efforts, grassroots education, and working in communities of color, that once people have the information and know how important it is, that they will say yes to organ, eye, and tissue donation.
Wow. Go ahead, Omacha.
Well, Bobby, tell our audience, what exactly does Lifelink, tell us all about the organization Lifelink of Georgia. Tell us what it does, what resources and services it provides.
Well, I don't want to duplicate Marion's response because we're one of the 57. So most of all the 57 organizations, we all have the same responsibilities across the country. We are federally designated to certain areas that we are able to, we call them donor service areas, DSAs, that we're responsible for. For example, here in Georgia, we have the whole state plus 2 counties in South Carolina. Marion's organization, they dip into Indiana as well as part of their service area. So all of our 57 organizations, we do the same thing, the same functionality. We all have the same goals, and that's to increase the number of organ donors and viable organs for transplantation to our over 100,000 people we have on the national waiting list.
Wow. We got to take a station break. But I want to get back and really delve heavily into what a little bit more about how people can get a better understanding and also help the organizations out. So we're going to take a station break, but we'll be back with more. It's Your Life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. Today is International Youth Day around the world. And I believe that we all need to prepare our youth and young adults to be able to take the challenges that they're going to be faced with tomorrow. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley, the founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation. And one of our goals is to mentor, lead, guide, and also encourage our youth to give them the understanding that they do have purpose and that they will be leading this world tomorrow. So International Youth Day is so important to all of the youth around the world. And it's also should be important to you to step out your comfort zone, guide, teach, and encourage them to be the future leaders of tomorrow. So thank you so much, and get out and do your part. Hello. Hey, I'm James Cooley. I am the founder and CEO of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, Options, Opportunities, / the Choice Program. Our primary mission is to help build a foundation of our youth and young adults and communities. And we encourage everyone to dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. And the way that you do that is, first of all, you got to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you are here for a purpose. You also have to be able to step out your comfort zone and do things that you probably didn't think that you can do. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's Life, and just like we said, this National Minority Donors Awareness Month, and a lot of you are probably saying, "What is that?" You know, I'll tell you. So we get ready to dive deep into that. And if you want to be part of the conversation, again, just go to the comments, wherever you're watching this at, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, etc., LinkedIn, and you can ask these two great guests any questions that you want. So, Marion, can you tell our audience how can they go about? Just tell them the process and the donation process.
So it's dual, right? There are a couple of things that need to happen. One, as Bobby mentioned, our role is to educate and promote awareness around organ and tissue donation, and that is so that people will become registered to become donors, so that if something tragically happens in their life, at the end of their life, they can become a donor. Because we need more folks who are registered, who are brown and Black, to support and help save lives of the people that are on the waiting list. As Bobby mentioned, we have a little over 100,000 people that are waiting. And in that waiting, the majority of people, about 90,000, are waiting for kidneys. And of that 90,000, about 60% are people of color waiting for a kidney transplant. And they wait typically, 5 to 7 years for an organ. So the education and awareness is so key, not only to just get people registered, but also to get people to sort of advocate for themselves and understand why they should participate in the organ and tissue donation process. And that is not only that they can save their lives, if they understand what living donation is, but also that they can save someone else's life. Bobby and I do our education. We always ask people, if you had an opportunity to save someone's life, would you? And most people say yes. However, earlier when you were talking, you were saying a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand the process of organ and tissue donation. And so our job is to help people understand the process of donation, and then also how to advocate for themselves and their loved ones, and then just to register. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes less than 30 seconds, but it is an opportunity to give back when your life is no longer sustainable. And you could save someone in your family, or you can save a complete stranger. But donation is donation. It knows no color, and you can help folks.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. The process is probably what most people don't know about. Hey, Bobby, can you tell our audience what exactly is um, National Minor Donor Awareness Month?
National Minority Donor Awareness Month it is a month that has been set aside for the minority and multicultural communities to really be educated about the need within those communities. Not only are we educating about the need, we're also talking and spreading the message about healthy living, taking care of yourself, and making sure that you are healthy. And we're also talking about living donation. So all those three prongs and those three things we're trying to accomplish is just geared to the minority and multicultural communities to really have a full force effort across the country to make our community aware. Because as we just stated, the numbers that Marion just gave you, which are very daunting numbers, when you have a large percentage of people of color, the Black and brown community, who are in need, but yet when we look at the other side, we have very low numbers in the number of people who are willing to donate. So I'm a firm believer, you can't put anything into the system you can't take anything out of the system if you don't put anything into it. So we really try to encourage those, give them all the correct information, the factual information, and answer the question. But we always have to stress to the healthy living and the healthy lifestyles.
Most definitely. Marion, there are people out there. I mean, social media is powerful. So when people read, these misconceptions and myths about organ donation, and if you have to be, you have to have money to get on the top of the transplant list. Can you tell us about certain myths and misconceptions about organ donation? And please just tell us what exactly is factual as opposed to the myths that are out there on social media. And besides, I heard this and I heard that. Can you kind of go into that?
Yeah, one, I will say there are a lot of myths and misconceptions that are perpetuated through social media, through television, and it doesn't happen that way. One of the biggest myths is that if folks in the healthcare industry know that you are an organ donor, that they will not try to save your life. Please recognize that physicians and EMTs take an oath to do no harm. And I tell people, or I will ask people, how many people have been in a car accident? And, people raise their hands, and I'm like, what was the first thing that happened? Did they ask you for your wallet, or did they ask you your name? And then they ask you questions so that they could stabilize you, so they could get you to the hospital. Yes. I said, when you got to the hospital, did anybody ask you if you were an organ donor? Did they ask you for your driver's license? And they were like, well, no, I got care. That's because they're not thinking about whether you're an organ donor or not. They're thinking about how they're going to save your life. That is factual. The other thing is, a lot of people say, I have to take my organs with me. God wants me to take my organs with me, which is a myth, right? For people who are Christian, people who read the Bible or the Torah or whatever religion you believe in, all major religions support organ, eye, and tissue donation. And so, because it is an act of goodwill in most major religions, that you take care of your neighbors and that you help save someone's life. And so that's the biggest, that's the fact. All major religions support organ and tissue donation. So you don't have to take your body with you, because how many people I grew up Southern Baptist, and how many people on Sundays have found you don't need this earthly body. God's going to give you another body. So if they preach it in church, in the majority of religions, something has to be to that. So, we bury a lot of healthy organs every single day that could go to saving someone else's life. And those are really, two of the biggest ones. There are lots more. You won't be able to have a funeral. We just don't have time to name all of them. But I will say, call your organ procurement organization in your state, in your region, and you can get all of the myths and misconceptions dispelled.
Thank you for that.
Michelle, if I could just add a little bit to Marion's response. And, one of the things we face is geographical misperceptions and myths as well. Being here in the South and with Marion being in the Midwest, sometimes those things change and are interchangeable. Here, being in the South and so close to Tuskegee, Alabama, I hear that on a daily basis, about the Tuskegee. How do I know you guys aren't going to kill me, just experiment on my body, to see why Black people run fast, or, all these kind of things, so it's just amazing, geographically, the things that you get. And, sometimes you have to be real creative with your answers. Marion gave you guys the politically correct answers, but trust me, when we're out in the community, those answers get a little more lively.
They do, Bobby. They do.
And Bobby and Marion, there was a movie, I'm not going to tell what the movie is, but you know what the movie I'm talking about, where they took the Black person's body and they made him subconscious, and they just did an experiment on him. It's the movie called Get Out, actually.
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, it's very interesting, Bobby. Jason knows what I'm talking about. But you're right. Social media and he said, she said, word on the street, it can really, increase the myths and misconceptions about organ donation. Bobby, why should Black and brown people participate in living donation as well as deceased donation? Why should we do that?
Well, I believe that we all should consider supporting it, because we are the community that's most in need. When we look at kidney failure and how it, with high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, and I had a conversation with a scientist last night, and she said, well, Bobby, you're forgetting about the environmental things that affect our bodies as well. And that's one of the things that we never discuss. But when we look at those premorbidities about what happens to us, we are most in need. So if we're most in need, it would kind of make sense that we really get behind this, because our people are suffering on dialysis, and eventually they die at a very early age or when they should not be dying, because there is something that can be done. And that is to consider or register to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor. And in some cases, depending on which physician you're talking to, it's been stated that your best match may come from someone in your same ethnic background when it pertains to kidneys. So that's why we need to get involved. And that's why we really need to understand what's going on with donation and transplantation in the Black community.
Wow. I tell you, we're going to take a station break, but when we come back, we're going to pick it up from here. So again, if you want to be part of this conversation, just go to whatever mechanism you're watching this on, whether it's StreamYard, Facebook, YouTube, and ask these two great guests any question you want to. It's Your Life. I'm Dr. James Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? In everything that you do.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And just like I said, we're talking about this very, very important topic. And also this National Minority Donors Awareness Month. And just like both of these great guests have been talking about, it's important that we understand the process. It's important that we understand how important this is. And if we can save lives by donating, I like what Marion was saying about the religious portion of that, or people think that they have to have everything, all the organs when they die, and they want to be buried with them. But if you can save somebody, extend somebody else's life, I think it's so important. I think it's so important that we do that. So, Marion, how do you reach and educate people before they make the major decision to become a organ donor?
That's the one of the great things about education and awareness. You create a plan and you understand where you need to go. But in reality, we reach people whether they're at work, they're at play, they're at school, they're in associations, if they're in fraternities, sororities, if they're in mom and baby classes, driver's eds classes. You have to take the message to where people are. We sort of every year think about and look at the registry, right? Where are people registered? Where are people not registered? When you take a look at the people who are not registered or the people who are saying no to donation, you really want to take the message to them. And you take it in a way that is relevant to them. People who look like them, people who speak like them, people who have shared experiences, shared stories, so that they can understand the message in a way that resonates with them. We are very cognizant of having, our outreach team and folks in our organization who truly represent the communities that we serve, because that is the only way that you're going to be able to disseminate a message to communities. And we do it in a number of ways: billboards, videos, social media, and just plain on boots on the ground, going to community, parades and back to schools and, picnics and, family reunions and driver's ed classes. So it's just really, you go where the community is and you disseminate the message in a way that resonates with them.
Wow. So, hey, Bobby, how does one get on the waiting list? I know Michelle had mentioned something about if you got a lot of money, that means you get pushed to the top. I mean, I don't know if that's the case or not, but what's the process of someone getting on the waiting list for organ donation?
Well, I think that's two different things, and that's a great question. But let's separate the two. You have the registry to be an organ donor, then you have the waiting list to be a recipient. Those are the patients who are in need. And when you are in need, you are referred to a transplant center by, let's say kidneys, for example, you're referred by your nephrologist to the transplant center. Once you go through a battery of tests and psychological things and a lot of batteries of things that you have to go through, there is a decision made if you are medically suitable to be placed on a transplant waiting list. Now, once you're placed on that transplant waiting list, that's when the action actually starts, is that you are on this list. And let me get out of the word of list. And let's say it's a pool of people, because it's not a chronological list that Marion needed first, and I came, then you, and then Michelle came after. It's not that. It's a pool, because a lot of things are listed by blood type, your height, your weight, your age, the severity of your illness, who's the sickest. All those things play a major role. So once you're placed on this pool, or in this pool, it's a waiting process, and you have to almost wait for your number to be called. If you think back, almost in the sense of back in the day when, I remember my mother would go to the store and she always had to pull a number, and they would call your number, then you were up to order what you wanted to order. So it's something like that. When your number is called, then you're up. And, our jobs, and what Marion and I and what other organizations, a lot of our colleagues try to do across the country, we try to educate and empower people to make a decision that when their life is over, or even while they're living, that they want to help someone else. And when you make that decision and you do that, you've made that commitment. I always like to phrase it as, when you make that commitment, you're giving a gift to someone. You just won't know who's going to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Marion, I know in your case, last time you was on the show, you talked about your husband,
Mm-hmm.
and how that was something, I believe, that you guys made a decision. Can you tell her that was so touching on the last time you was on the show? Can you kind of share that with our listeners?
Sure. About 3 years ago, my husband and I are avid bike riders, and we biked all the time. And on this one particular day, believe it or not, it was Juneteenth, 2019. We were out riding our bikes, laughing, talking with our daughter, and he just sort of rode in front of me and fell off his bike, had a heart attack, and he died. And he ended up being a tissue donor. And but it was interesting, because when our daughter was 10, she told me, she said, "Mom, do you know that Dad is not registered to be a donor?" And I'm like, "What do you mean your daddy's not registered to be a donor?" She's like, "It's not on his driver's license." And I told him I was going to tell. So I'm like, "Reggie Shuck, do you know what I do for a living?" And he said the one thing that the majority of people say. And he's like, "Oh, I wanted you to make that decision." And I said to him, just because I work at Gift of Hope doesn't mean that at that moment that something happens to you that I want to make that decision. I said, because it is a tragic circumstance, and I can't make that decision. You have to make that decision. And thank God that he did go the next time he got his license renewed, and he did sign up to be a registered donor. And I will tell you, my words came true. At that moment, it was a tragic circumstances, and I was not an employee of Gift of Hope at that moment. I was a wife, I was a mother, I was a daughter-in-law, a sister-in-law, and I had to make the decision based on what was best at the time. And that decision was made easy because I knew what my husband wanted, and he was registered.
Yes, that's Michelle, I think you got a question. Question number 16.
So, Marion, okay, so let's say someone gets educated about the process of being a living donor. Let's just say that. Do you have the question posed to you? And you can answer this as well, Bobby. Do you have the question posed to either one of you that, okay, the people, the person who may want to be a donor, they're scared about the process, about the healing process. Let's just pick out a kidney, right? Kidney transplants, very serious, and any surgery is very serious, but person may say, well, how long I'm going to be in the hospital, just certain things. How do you respond when someone has concerns about their own health going through the process and their recovery time? So can you start with that, Marion, and Bobby, can you also add to that?
Yeah, sure. We get that question a lot. And what we will tell people when as Bobby mentioned, it's really about the transplant, center. Even living donors have to be referred to a transplant center because they will receive the most intensive checkup they have ever received in their lives, because people in the transplant centers want to make sure that a living donor is not coerced into it, that they're doing it on their own free will. And so you will get this checkup and all this battery of tests and psychological tests that will help them to understand if you are viable and capable of being a living donor. And then they will also explain to you, what will actually happen during the transplant, right? And what you can reasonably expect based on your health. And they want to make sure you're in tip-top health, make sure that you're not in need. You won't be in need of needing a kidney later on down the line. And so all those questions will be answered, through these battery of tests, through these conversations with the transplant docs, and then making sure you're so healthy that you can then go through with it, and psychologically healthy as well. Bobby?
Yeah, and I would just add to that. Also, one of the things that we, with all the organizations, do, we have a large group of volunteers and ambassadors that go out with us, who have been through it themselves. And like Mary and I, we both have, Marion's on the donor side, I'm the recipient, but we also have volunteers who have, and they share their stories. And because we work and we're employed by the organizations, people may think, oh, you're just saying this because you get paid to do it. But when we bring our volunteers who are actually been through it, that is a connection. We try to really match up our volunteers to the community that we're talking to as well.
This is a question for both of you. So, let's say you have a patient who unfortunately is not going to recover. Now, who is responsible for making the donation decision? Let's say on the patient's license, they're saying they want to be a donor, right? But the family does not want that to happen. What happens in that scenario? Bobby, can you start with that?
Sure, that's a very easy one. You gave me the easiest one. It's simple. We will follow through with donation, because that person who has already made that decision, he's what we call it authorization. He's given authorization on his own behalf. So we will talk with the family and work them through the process, but we will follow through with the decision because the person already made their decision.
And I'll add to that, Bobby. What people should understand and recognize is that an organ procurement organization is going to honor the donor's wish, and they have made a legally binding authorization to be a donor when they register, and it is committed on their driver's license or it is committed on the registry in their state. And so our job is not to fight with the family. Our job is to speak with them, help us to get the information so that we can honor their loved ones' wishes. And that is the conversation that we will have with them, is that we are here to help you honor your loved ones' wishes.
Wow. This is deep. A lot of great information. We're going to take a station break. We're going to come back and pick it up. It's Your Life. I'm Dr. James. It's cool. We'll be back shortly after the break.
The J.C. Cooley Foundation is a nonprofit organization that was started in October of 2014. The J.C. Cooley Foundation continues to strive to expand its programs and offerings to the youth, young adults, and citizens of our great communities nationwide and overseas. We hope that you'll be able to take part in one or more of the many exciting events that we're offering this year and experience firsthand the pride we take in supporting our cause. It's our mission to equip the youth of today for the challenges of tomorrow, and we rely heavily on the generosity of individuals and business owners for support. Without the assistance of community-minded individuals just like you, we wouldn't be able to serve our youth each year. We ask that you make a commitment to support our annual appeal by making a cash donation. This year's goal is $50,000. Your generosity will assist us in making a difference in the lives of the youth in our community. You can give online at CooleyFoundation.org. Remember that every donation makes a difference regardless of size. The J.C. Cooley Foundation thanks you in advance for your contribution.
James, J.C. Cooley, Cooley Show. It's your life.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. This is such lots and lots of information that I think that our audience and everybody need to be aware of because we're talking saving lives, we're talking donors, tissues. But I noticed that there's and I want to start with you, Bobby. Which organs or tissues that are greatly in need right now?
Kidneys are the number one organs in need, as Marion mentioned earlier. You know, you have close to 90,000 people in this country who are needing kidney transplants, which is an astronomical number, and it's the most viable organ. And it's one that you can donate while you're living. You can donate one of yours. If you're deceased, you can donate two. So that's the organ that's most in need. When you talk about tissue is a little different because that's life enhancing. In most cases, it's not going to save your life. It's going to repair something that can help you, sometimes stability wise, with your sight and all those type of things. But when you talk about life saving, we're talking about those viable organs that we all need to stay alive.
And what's the difference? Tissue. I know tissues and organs. Which tissues are in greatly in need?
Well, when we say tissue, we're talking about bone and skin, ligaments, tendons, veins, heart for valves. And so, there's a lot because that's what a lot of it is not cosmetic, but elective surgery that people have. And some people choose to have it. Some people choose not. And you take the biggest one I use all the time is athletes. Athletes tear their ACLs. That's what we consider tissue because ACL ligaments are transplanted. That's to speed up that healing process of many years ago when you couldn't play you're out for 18 months to 2 years. Now you see these guys coming back in 6 to 8 months with the recovery process. So it's a great need to anyone. And one of the things I'd like to just share, James, is that Mary and I, we are very dedicated to what we do into this overall mission. And, before we go, I just want to thank you and Michelle again, because you guys are true troopers. From the first time we've met, you guys have had us on 3 years in a row. So it's more commitment from people like you guys who have the platform that we can get our message out nationally and to keep spreading the message. So we just want to say thank you to the James Cooley Show for allowing us to come on these 3 years, because we know we have impacted so many great people who are your followers and your friends who listen to your show on a daily basis. So once again, thank you for that.
Well, we always going to have you because this is so important. We have to continue to share this message. And the more we educate, we pick up viewers all the time, especially now that did not have never even had this conversation or thought about this. And it's important that that we get that word out. So we really appreciate you guys being guests and taking the time out your busy schedule to come on and talk about these things.
And James, can I just say one thing that you just said? Having the conversation. It is so important that people are having this conversation. If you make a decision to be an organ donor, tell your family. Talk about it more than just at a funeral. Talk about it at family reunions, Sunday dinners. Have a conversation. Talk about it within your fraternity, your sorority, wherever, in church. It's important to have these conversations and have this dialogue, because you never know. Sometimes we get in church and we ask, who's been impacted by organ donation or who's waiting. You don't understand how many people raise their hands, and you look across the congregation and people are like, I didn't know Sister Mary needed a kidney. I didn't know she needed a heart. So it's important to have conversations.
It most definitely is important to have those types of conversations. And just like, on your driver's license or registering to, be a donor, I would say, and just you two chime in on this, never assume that your family, as much as they love you, is going to honor your wishes unless you actually have it authorized. Because as we know, those situations when you're at the end of life, when their loved ones at the end of life, emotions overpower and they don't want to hear about it, or they don't want to talk about it. They just want to let their loved one just go in peace. What would you say about that? Not allowing or putting that decision into anybody else's hands, including your loved ones. What do you think about that, Bobby?
Well, I believe that when you have this discussion and you share with your family, you are taking control of your own life. You are the same way we prepare for wills and all these other things that we do. We need to prepare for this as well, because going through and seeing this process, how it works out. Many years ago, I was one of the ones who used to go and talk to the families. And I was firsthand to see all the different emotions and ruckus and all those kind of things that transpire in those conversations. And it always would hurt me when that decision wasn't shared, because some decisions tore families apart. And that's not what we want to do. And I don't think that's what the person wants to do. So it's vitally important that we start having these discussions, as Marion stated, not only in church and not only waiting for us or someone like us to come to your meeting or things like that. Start having those discussions within your family now, because one thing we do know, life is going to end at some point. We just don't know when, we don't know where, and we don't know how, but it's going to end at some point. So we got to get prepared for that day.
And choose wisely. Choose the person who will honor your decisions. Like my sister is a nurse. She is my healthcare proxy, because I know, being a nurse, that she will be able to cut through anything, even though I'm registered. But like Bobby mentioned, people start falling out, and then all of a sudden it's a problem. So choose the person who will stand up against all the influencers, all the people who may have guilt about somebody dying, and choose wisely. Because you can't choose your legal next of kin, but you can choose somebody to represent you and to represent your decisions and make those end of life decisions. Make a will, make a healthcare proxy, make a power of attorney. Make those decisions, because, if you don't, people are in a blur. It is a tragic circumstances that has happened. It's traumatic. It's trauma filled. And so people are in it, as Bobby said, in emotional haze.
Wow.
And before Jay, I just want to add on. Remember, I said Mary is the politically correct one. I always got to add a little bit of humor into this, because you have to make it fun and you have to make people feel. See, I look at that. Look, you ever think about when death does occur, and we know it's going to happen, and we go to church and we pray, we sing these songs, we want to see Jesus. Why do we go kicking and screaming? you know, when you think about it, and when you pose that question to people, they look at it and react the same way that you just say, wow, that is so right. So we have to, the job that Marion and I do, it's just not a cookie cutter. We have to be prepared for all type of things. We have to be a resource to the community. We have to do all these things. We have to wear so many hats and flip them on like we eating potato chips, because it's very important, because we're there to help. We're not there to take anything away. We are there to help guide you through a process.
Wow. We're down to the last minute of the show. How can people get in touch with, how can the public contact the Gift, the Hope, and Lifelink of Georgia?
Yeah, you can contact me at mshuck@giftofhope.org, but you can also go to our website, www.giftofhope.org, and there's a wealth of information on there, a wealth of information that dispels myths and misconceptions. It will tell you about the waiting list. It will show you stories of people who have shared experiences that looks like the communities we serve, but it is your opportunity to go and find out the truth.
And you, Bob?
Well, I'm going to give you a phone number because my email is too long. You can contact me at 800-544-6667, 800-544-6667. You can go to our website as well, which is lifelinkfoundation.org. You'll find very similar information about stories, how to register, all those type of things. And before we go, just one last comment. If we sit by and do absolutely nothing, 0 lives will be saved.
Yes.
Wow. I want to thank both of you all for taking the time to come on the show again. And I tell you, we're going to do this again real soon if you got So thank you so much. And I hope our listeners, I hope that you understand how important this is. And, you know, we all need to be donors, I believe, you know. So we'll be back same time next week, Tuesday through Friday, on the James Cooley Show. Thank you all so much. It's your Dr. James Cooley. Yeah, Bobby. Hey, man.
I'm sitting here answering email.
Thanks so much, man. And I tell you, when I get back to Atlanta in September, man, we're gonna hook up, man.
Looking forward to it, man. Appreciate it. Thank you once again.
Hey, thank you, man. You have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, my friend.
You do the same.
All right.